Hello, here we are at the Academy of Natural Living again, and today I'd like to talk more about soil building and ways we can go about building soil and how to make the soil nice and healthy and nice and rich. Particularly in many parts of Australia, our land is so ancient. You know, how do we rebuild the soil? One of the important ingredients of soil is organic matter. So there's a couple of ways you can add organic matter to the soil, and I'm going to do another video more in depth on organic matter, but this is just one way in which you can add organic matter to the soil, because you can bring it in, you can import it in, which is can be costly, but it's, you know, it requires haulage. So fossil fuels can be, you know, take a bit of time, then you've got to spread it out. Or you can use your smarts and have it grow ready there for you across the land, and all you got to do is cut it back. So how does that happen in nature? Well, nature uses plants, and in an orchard, well, we use grasses, many different types of grasses and many different types of ground covers. Nature doesn't like monocultures. A monoculture normally arises in places where there's been some type of imbalance created or dis-ease in the land. Such as after a fire, a monoculture of weeds might arise, because that protects the land and then starts to put organic matter, because they're annuals. They'll die back and they'll put their organic matter into the soil. But they're exceptions. And what will happen is the perennials will then come through and push out the weeds, and they'll grow up nice and big and strong again. Now there's complexity in all of that. Nature likes complexity. Many different species working together. The root systems all work together. They're symbiotic. They nourish one another. They support one another. They draw nutrients up from different depths. They cover the land. They keep the soil in place. They stop erosion. They stop erosion by rain and by wind. They trap the moisture. And they start to support microbial life, the life of other insects, and allow the perennials then to rise up and further shelter the earth. So grasses and ground covers are an essential part of the health of the land. And like I'm saying, nature abhors monocultures. Anywhere there's a monoculture, you have to then weed it using herbicides or very time intensive and labour intensive methods. And you also get pests, because pests, you know, come in and they feed on their favourite food. And if their favourite food is all over the place, then they proliferate. But if the plants are all broken up in different places and different types and different varieties, the chances of those pests proliferating are minimal, because they just don't have as much of their food supply around. Not only that, trees, you know, and different plants, different herbs, different grasses and ground covers, they all work symbiotically. And so with a variety there, with complexity, they are much better nourished. They evolve into much stronger beings. So let's have a look around the farm here and see how many different types of, you know, ground cover and grass species there are growing here. And let's have a look at the complexity, and then we'll talk about how that's used to build the soil. Let's go. Just on the spot alone where I was sitting, you can see there's this thin-bladed grass, and then there's also clover. So there's a thin-bladed grass and there's clover interspersed all the way through it. And if I just zoom out, so there's a thin-bladed grass, and there's clover if you get nice and close. And then you can see here there's a different type of grass. Now that's called brachiaria. I don't know what the name of all the grasses and clovers are, but that one's called brachiaria. That one grows up quite big. So there you can see, right here, here's a nice thicker blade type grass, brachiaria. We've got the thinner blade grass next to it, and we've got the clover interspersed around it. And if I just shoot over here, Here's another type of ground cover again. So this is I don't know what it is, some type of herb. It's not edible though. And there's just a different type of ground cover. And that makes way through the brachiaria, a little bit of brachiaria all around there, clover, to the thin-bladed grass. And that's just one area. Let's go have a look at another. So here we go. Here's another area. You can see here, this is quite a soft broadleaf grass. Quite a soft broadleaf grass underneath the trees. This one's quite nice because it grows quite lush. And if I just pan across a little bit, here we have one of those leguminous creepers that I showed you in the last video. So that's creeping out across the ground. Coming around a little bit more, and in here we have Mimosa pudica. So here's another leguminous ground cover spreading out, and this broadleaf grass all around. What else can we see? This here, trying to come up here, is guinea grass. Now guinea grass grows tall. I'll show you some of that in a second, but this has a very high nitrogen content. And all these grasses generally have a richer nitrogen content than the native grass that would have been here, which is very sparse and very weak. So this has all been brought in to help nourish the land, which is going to nourish the orchard, which grows our food. So right there, this is a young guinea grass plant. I'll show you some adult guinea grass in a second. But you can see amongst it is the leguminous vine all around it. This one here is brachiaria. Okay, and then there's the broadleaf grass over here. So all these different types of grasses. So you don't have to weed, you don't have to spray anything. It keeps everything nice and healthy. And over here is another ground cover. Growing all the way around one of the orchard trees, a Perennial tree. And so there is guinea grass. So these ones don't get cut back because they're part of a border. But that's what guinea grass looks like. And that has a higher nitrogen content than what you would ordinarily get with the native grass. So we slash that back, we use it as mulch, compost it. It's a great resource. And it also keeps the wind back. Elsewhere on the property is elephant grass. Let's go have a look at some elephant grass. So just over there, forming a border and a windbreak for the orchard, is elephant grass. So elephant grass, again, is richer in nitrogen content than the weak native grasses, and forms a nice border to protect the orchard, because the winds come through and they rip the pollen out of the flowers and the flowers off the trees, and you get very poor pollination and very poor fruit set. So that's quite important that we have things like that. Here's another different type of ground cover again. Here's one right here, it's a different one, we haven't seen this one yet. But these are just examples. All the way around the orchard, there are hundreds of different types of ground cover and grass species. And these bring biodiversity and complexity to the soil. Now what happens is that as this gets long, we cut it. We get a mower and we cut it down. And we make sure that it gets spread out in a particular method that we mow. And if you look down here, so this is remnants of the grass that was mowed literally probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this is about due to get mowed again. So you can see here, dried up grass. Now this breaks down with microbes, and this is what forms the soil. So the soil is basically broken down organic matter, and the soil here was very thin. There wasn't much organic matter in it at all. It was literally only centimetres deep, and now it's several inches deep after John cultivating the land in this way for about 50 years. So cut it back, let it decay, the next lot grows up. So rather than having just the bare earth, and poisoning everything, you have a multitude of species. It's allowed to grow right up to the trees, and up at the point you want to feed the trees, you just cut the grass right back, feed the trees, and let it grow over again. And it keeps everything nice and healthy, naturally. Complexity, diversity. Nature likes complexity and diversity. In fact, the more evolved something is, the more complex it becomes. And you know, one day we'd actually like to get rid of the mowers completely, and we'd like to bring in some ruminants, get some fencing up and bring in some ruminant animals, and they crop the grass and they leave their manure around. And that way we don't have to worry about a lawnmower and fossil fuels putting those pollutants into the air and having to maintain loud, noisy mechanical equipment. So there's just some ideas. But you know, you look at the lawns you get in your suburbs, monocultures, have to use herbicides, have to use pesticides. Not a healthy way for the land to live. And yeah, that's food for thought. So I hope that was helpful. Have fun, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.